Hi, I'm Charlotte Moser, the co-director of the Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Today on VEC Vaccine Notes, we're going to be talking about Japanese encephalitis virus, or JEV. Despite its name, this virus does not only occur in Japan. Cases occur in many regions of the Far East. The JEV vaccine is considered a travel vaccine, but it's not recommended for all travelers to the Far East, particularly because the risk tends to be low, even when people are traveling in affected regions. Between 1993 and 2017, only 12 U.S. travelers got JEV. Most were members of the military who were on duty in that region. Because of the low risk, the recommendation for vaccination depends on other factors that are associated with travel. Things like the location where a person will be staying, their length of stay, the time of the year they're traveling, what kinds of activities they'll be doing, and the types of accommodations in which they'll be staying. During the next little bit, we'll talk more about this disease, the vaccine that prevents it, common questions we receive here at the Vaccine Education Center, and the relative risks and benefits of this disease and vaccination. So let's get to it. Japanese encephalitis virus is related to viruses like dengue, yellow fever, and West Nile viruses. Each of these are spread through the bite of a mosquito. Now, people infected with JEV don't spread this virus to other people. And while most people who are infected don't develop symptoms, those who do can experience things like fever, headache, stiff neck, nausea, and vomiting. Symptoms usually begin 1 to 2 weeks after the bite. Importantly, some cases can be more severe, causing inflammation of the brain, known as encephalitis. JEV is the most common cause of encephalitis throughout the world. And when people with JEV experience encephalitis, about 1 in 4 of them will die, and of those who survive, about half will have permanent disabilities, such as brain damage. Most travelers can avoid JEV by protecting themselves against mosquito bites. Mosquitoes most often feed between dusk and dawn, so staying indoors during these periods and doing other things to decrease the risk of being bitten by a mosquito can help. Some of the common protective measures include using mosquito netting over beds, wearing long-sleeve shirts and long pants, wearing insect repellents with DEET on exposed skin, and wearing clothing treated with an insecticide such as permethrin. Finally, staying in accommodations that have air conditioning or screens can also help. Since some people are recommended for vaccination, let's switch gears and talk more about the vaccine. There's currently only one JEV vaccine available in the United States, and we're taping this in April of 2026. That vaccine is called IXIARO, and it can be used to protect people beginning at 2 months of age. It was first approved only for use in adults in 2009, and then when more data were available, use was expanded to begin in people as young as 2 months of age, and that happened in 2013. The vaccine is a killed virus vaccine, meaning that the virus is grown in cells in the lab, and then it's purified and killed with a chemical. Because the virus is killed, people cannot get JEV infections from their vaccination. The vaccine is given as 2 doses that are separated by 28 days. And children that are younger than 2 years of age usually only get a half a dose of the regular amount during each time period. Adults that are between 18 and 65 years of age can get their second dose as early as 7 days after the first dose. But the goal would really be to schedule this vaccine for at least 5 weeks before your trip if it's recommended, because that allows for appropriate dosing spread between 28 days, as well as 1 week to develop antibodies for protection. For people who remain at risk, they may be recommended to get a booster dose a year after they get vaccinated. Now, side effects from the JEV vaccine are mild. About 1 in 100 people will experience an injection site reaction like redness or swelling or even a lump where the vaccine was given. And up to about 20 of 100 will experience side effects like headache, muscle aches, or feeling out of sorts. This is commonly called malaise. When we think about who should get the vaccine, as we talked about a little bit ago, most people don't need this vaccine before they travel, especially if they're staying in cities or if their trip is shorter than 1 month. However, if a traveler is going to a high-risk area during the time of year when JEV is spreading, the decision will come down to more specific details about their trip. Things such as whether they're staying in rural or farm areas, whether they're staying more than a month, whether they're going to be doing activities like biking or camping or other outdoor activities where they'll be having prolonged exposure, potentially to mosquitoes, or whether they're staying in accommodations that don't have air conditioning, screens, or bed nets. Now, the vaccine is also typically considered for people who are traveling to an area with an ongoing outbreak, as well as travelers to areas that are known to have risk, but the travelers don't have all of the details, either about their destinations or their activities or duration of travel. The best way to decide if you need a JEV vaccine before you're traveling is to schedule an appointment with a travel medicine expert. If you don't know where to find such an expert, you can check the website of the International Society of Travel Medicine to locate one. We offer a link to their website on the JEV page of our website at vaccine.chop.edu. Now, we don't get a lot of questions about JEV, primarily because the vaccine isn't recommended for most travelers. But one question we have received relates to families who are adopting children from China. Specifically, sometimes families find that their child started the JEV vaccine while they were still in their birth country, but now they need the second dose and they're in the United States. In this situation, if the child's going to be going back to their home country, or if they're going to another part of the world where they might be at increased risk for JEV, they may be recommended to get that second dose. However, as with other travelers, the best approach would be to discuss the potential for travel and the specifics of the trip with a travel medicine expert to determine whether the child needs the additional dose. So let's finish up with a look at the relative risks and benefits. Today we talked about the fact that JEV is the most common cause of encephalitis throughout the world, and that while most people don't have symptoms or they have only mild symptoms if they're infected, for some people they will experience more severe disease, including encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain. And when people experience encephalitis, their risk for death and permanent harm is high. About 1 of every 4 people with encephalitis caused by JEV will die. And of those who survive, about half will live with lifelong disabilities like brain damage. We also talked about the fact that most travelers are not at increased risk for disease, even if they're going to areas with JEV. Rather, the recommendation for vaccination depends on the person's location, length of stay, and planned activities, particularly if they're going to be in rural areas or doing activities that involve extensive time outdoors. While the vaccine side effects are mild, things like injection site reactions, headache, muscle aches, or feeling out of sorts, this vaccine generally is only recommended for a limited number of travelers. Because the vaccine is safe and it works, when our team evaluated the relative risks and benefits, we determined that for those whose travel plans warrant vaccination, that the vaccine would be beneficial. But for most people, the vaccine's not necessary. We hope after you've reviewed this information, you'll feel that way too. Thanks for listening today.